Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Vanachari Jamuna Tiara Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Vanachari Yamuna Tiara Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Vanachari Yamuna Tiara Vanachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You're coming to Bhagavatam class, you better hurry before the temple room fills up. Come on, demigods might come, and some of them are big. But that's only because all of you are here. The demigods will come to see you. So today, we will read from the 4th canto, text 21, verse 27. I just opened it to a place, and that seemed like a best place, probably because the place marker is in there, and yesterday we read the verse before it. Okay? Are we ready? Text 27. Asti Yagna Patir Namam Kesanachit Arha Satamaha Ihamutra Cha Lakshante Jyotsnavatsyaha Kavachid Bhavaha Asti Jagya Patir Nama Kesanachid Arasatamaha Iha Mutra Chalakshante Jyotsnavatai. Let me start that over. This is a mouthful. Jyotsnavatsyaha Kavachit Bhuvaha Asti Yagnapatir Nama Kesanachit Arhasatamaha Iha Mutra Talakshante Jyotsna Avatava Kavachit Bhuvaha Asti Yagnapatir Nama Kesanchit Arhasatamaha Iha Mutra Chalakshante Jyotsnavatavaya kavachit bhuvaha. Repeat. Asti yajna patir nama. Chit aratsatamaham. Yamuchacha lakshante. Navakavichavaha. Others? Okay, asti. There must be. Jagnapati, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. If that's you, raise your hand. Oh, look, Radhanath raised his hand. Iha mucha, wait a minute. Nama, of the name, Kesanchit, in the opinion of some, Arhasatamaha, O most respectful, Iha, in this material world, Amutra, after death, Cha, also, Lakshante, it is visible, Jyotsnavatya, powerful, beautiful, Kavachit, somewhere, Bhuvaha, bodies. Translation, my dear respectable ladies and gentlemen, according to the authoritative statements of Shastra, there must be a supreme authority who is able to award the respective benefits of our present activities. Otherwise, why should there be persons who are unusually beautiful and powerful, both in this life and in the life after death? Let's repeat that. My dear respectable ladies and gentlemen, according to the authoritative statements of Shastra, there must be a supreme authority who is able to award the respective benefits of our present activities. Otherwise, why should there be persons who are unusually beautiful and powerful, both in this life and in life after death? I thought we should repeat that because later on you may be giving this speech yourself, yes? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Can you hear from there? Am I speaking into it? Yes? Tell me if you can hear me now. Can you hear it now? Oh, no, I wasn't speaking. How about now? Okay. Purport. Prithu Maharaja's sole aim in ruling his kingdom was to raise the citizens to the standard of God consciousness. It's good to have a goal. And how about this one? His sole aim in ruling his kingdom was to raise the citizens to the standard of God consciousness. Since there was a great assembly in the arena of sacrifices, there were different types of men present, but he was especially interested in speaking to those who are not atheists. It has already been explained in the previous verses that Prithu Maharaj advised the citizens to become adhoksajadiya, which means God conscious or Krishna conscious. And in this verse, he specifically presents the authority of Shastra. Even though his father was a #1 atheist who did not abide by the injunctions mentioned in the Vedic Shastras, who practically stopped all sacrificial performances, and who so disgusted the Brahmanas that they not only dethroned him, but cursed and killed him. Atheistic men do not believe in the existence of God, and thus they understand everything that is happening in our daily affairs. Now, who is this father of Maharaj Prithu? Who knows? Who is it? Who? Raghunath Bhatta would know. Who was the father of Maharaj Prithu that we're talking about? He got cursed by the Brahmins and dethroned. Prithu. Not Prithu, Venu. Okay. Atheists believe in the atheistic Sankhya philosophy of combination of Prakriti and Purusha. They believe only in matter and hold that matter under certain conditions of amalgamation gives rise to the living force, which then appears as Purusha, the enjoyer. Then by a combination of matter and the living force, the many varieties of material manifestation come into existence. Nor do atheists believe in the injunctions of the Vedas. According to them, all the Vedic injunctions are simply theories that have no practical application in life. Taking all this into consideration, Prithu Maharaj suggested that theistic men will solidly reject the views of the atheists on the grounds that there cannot be many varieties of existence without the plan of a superior intelligence. Atheists, it's just like you go down to the shop and you see the varieties of stores at the mall, right? But it all happened by chance? Or there had to be some kind of intelligence that arranged what stores would be there and the people arranged what things would be in the store? Or did it just happen by chance? So you have to see there has to be something behind that. Atheists very vaguely explain that these varieties of existence occur simply by chance, but the theists who believe in the injunctions of the Vedas must reach all their conclusions under the directions of the Vedas. That's what Isaac Newton, one friend told him, that the solar system came about by chance. So he came and he made a model of the solar system, and you pedal the bicycle and the planets would go around the sun, and left it in the guy's living room. And the guy said, "Where did this come from?" He says, "Oh, it appeared by chance." He says, "That's not possible." He said, "Well, why not? You think that this is a model of the solar system. If you think the solar system appeared by chance, why not the model of it?" So it was a good point. Which one of them appeared by chance? Neither one. In the Vishnu Purana, it is said that the entire Varnashrama institution is meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The rules and regulations set up for the execution of the duties of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, or Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis are all meant to satisfy the Supreme Lord. At the present moment, although the so-called Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras have lost their original culture, they claim to be Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras by birthright. Yet they have rejected the proposition that such social and spiritual orders are especially meant for the worship of Lord Vishnu. The dangerous Mayavad theory set forth by Sankaracharya that God is impersonal does not tally with the injunctions of the Vedas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore described the Mayavadi philosophers as the greatest offenders against the personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic system, one who does not abide by the orders of the Vedas is called a Gnostic or atheist. When Lord Buddha preached the theory of nonviolence, he was obliged to deny the authority of the Vedas, and for this reason he is considered by the followers of Vedas to be a Nastika. But although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly enunciated that the followers of Lord Buddha's philosophy are Gnostics or atheists because of their denial of the authority of the Vedas, he considered the Sankarites, who wanted to establish Vedic authority by trickery and who actually followed the Mayavadi philosophy of Buddha's school, to be more dangerous than the Buddhists themselves. The Sankarite philosophers' theory that we have to imagine a shape of God is more dangerous than the denial of the existence of God. Notwithstanding all the philosophical theorizing by atheists or Mayavadis, the followers of Krishna consciousness rigidly live according to the injunctions given in Bhagavad Gita, which is accepted as the essence of all Vedic scripture. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, 1846, Yata prativir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam svakarmanat tam abhacharya siddhim vidanti manavaha. By the worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings, who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. This indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of everything, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadasa Yataha. The Lord himself also confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, I am the origin of everything. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all emanations, and at the same time as Paramatma, he is spread all over existence. The Supreme Truth is therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and every living being is meant to satisfy the Supreme Godhead by performing his respective duty, Svakarmana Tam Abhacharya. Maharaj Prithu wanted to introduce this formula amongst his citizens. The most important point in human civilization is that while one engages in different occupational duties, he must try to satisfy the Supreme Lord by the execution of such duties. That is the highest perfection of life. Svanutishacha dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. By discharging one's prescribed duty, one can become very successful in life if he simply satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The vivid example is Arjuna. He was a Kshatriya. His duty was to fight. And by executing his prescribed duty, he satisfied the Supreme Lord and therefore became perfect. Everyone should follow this principle. The atheists who do not are condemned in Bhagavad Gita by the following statement, Tan aham divishta kurun sam reshu nadadamam. In this verse it is clearly said that persons who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the lowest of mankind and are very mischievous. Under the regulative principles of the Supreme, such mischievous persons are thrown into the darkest region of material existence and are born of asuras or atheists. Birth after birth, such asuras go still further down, finally to animal forms like those of tigers or similarly ferocious beasts. Thus, for millions of years, they will have to remain in darkness without knowledge of Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Purushottam, or the best of all living entities. He is a person like all other living entities, but he is the leader or the best of all living beings. That is stated in the Vedas also. Nicho Nicha Janam Chaitanas Chaitananam. He is the chief of all eternals, the chief of all living entities, and he is complete and full. He has no need to derive benefit by interfering with the affairs of other living entities. But because he is the maintainer of all, he has the right to bring them to the proper standard so that all living entities may become happy. A father wants all his children to become happy under his direction, Similarly, God or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has the right to see that all living entities are happy. There is no possibility of becoming happy within this material world. The Father and Sons are eternal. But if the living entity does not come to the platform of his eternal life of bliss and knowledge, then there is no question of happiness. Although Purushottam, the best of all living entities, has no benefit to derive from the common living entities, he does have the right to discriminate between their right and wrong ways. The right way is the path of activities meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as we have already discussed. Svanustastisha dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. A living entity may engage in any occupation of duty, but if he wants to have perfection in his duties, he must satisfy the Supreme Lord. As such, one who pleases him gets better facilities for living, but one who displeases him gets involved in undesirable situations. It is therefore concluded there are two kinds of duties: mundane duty and duty performed for the sake of yajna, or sacrifice, yajnarthat karma. Any karma activity one performs which is not for the purpose of yajna is cause of bondage. Work has to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to the material world. Karma bandhana, or bondage of karma, is administered under the regulations of the stringent laws of material nature. Material existence is a struggle to conquer the impediments put forth by material nature. Anybody experience that? Someone like Raghunath Bhatta doesn't have impediments, but some of us, right? You don't have impediments? Too many. Let's see. And by the illusory power of the material nature, the foolish living entities work very hard within this material world and take this to be happiness. This is called Maya. In that hard struggle for existence, they deny the existence of the Supreme Authority, Purushottam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In order to regulate the activities of living entities, God has given us codes. Just as a king gives codes of law in a state, and whoever breaks the law is punished. Similarly, the Lord has given the infallible knowledge of the Vedas, which are not contaminated by the four defects of human life, namely the tendency to commit mistakes, to be illusioned, to cheat, and to have imperfect senses. If we do not take direction from the Vedas, but act whimsically according to our own choice, we are sure to be punished by the laws of the Lord, who offers different types of bodies in the 8,400,000 species of forms. Material existence, or the sense gratification process, is conducted according to the type of body we are given by Prakriti, or material nature. As such, there must be divisions of pious and impious activities, punya and papa. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:28, it is clearly stated, Ye samtu antagattam papam jananam punya karmanam tedvanva moha nirmukta bhajate mam drida vrata. One who has completely surpassed the resultant activities of the impious life, path of life. This is possible only when one engages exclusively in pious activities, can understand his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus one engages in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This life of engaging always in the loving service of the Lord is called Adhoksaja Diya, or the life of Krishna consciousness, which King Prithu meant his citizens to follow. The different varieties of life and of material existence do not come about by chance and necessity. They are different arrangements made by the Supreme Lord in terms of the pious and impious activities of the living entities. By performing pious activities, one can take birth in a good family or a good nation. One can get a beautiful body or become very well educated or very rich. We see, therefore, that in different places and in different planets, there are different standards of life, bodily features, and educational statuses, all awarded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, according to pious or impious activities. Varieties of life, therefore, develop not by chance but by prearrangement. There is a plan, which is already outlined in the Vedic knowledge. One has to take advantage of this knowledge and mold his life in such a way that at the end, especially in the human form of life, he may go back home, back to Godhead, by practicing Krishna consciousness. The theory of chance can best be explained in the Vedic literatures by the words agyata sukriti, which refers to pious activities performed without the actor's knowledge. But these are also planned. For example, Krishna comes like an ordinary human being. He comes as a devotee like Lord Chaitanya, or sends his representative, the spiritual master or pure devotee. And this is also planned activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They come to canvass and educate, and thus a person in the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord gets a chance to mix with them, talk with them, and take lessons from them. And somehow or other, if a conditioned soul surrenders to such personalities, and by intimate association with them, chances to become Krishna conscious, he is saved from the material conditions of life. Krishna therefore instructs, Sarva dharmam parijjam, mam ekam saranam vraja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo, mukshayashyami masuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. The word sarva papebhya means from all sinful reactions. A person who surrenders unto him by utilizing the chance to associate with the pure devotee, spiritual master, or other authorized incarnations of Godhead like Prithu Maharaj, is saved by Krishna. Then his life becomes successful. So, we see in this purport, it was a rather long purport. Was that a long purport? About 3 kilometers long, right? So many times it was mentioned there that the purpose is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And that's where people get mixed up. They think, well, I'm a Brahmin, or I'm an important Kshatriya, or I'm a Vaishya, an important businessman. And yet they're all given as tasks to satisfy the Supreme Lord. Whether someone is doing the artik for Prabhupada, whether someone is cleaning the floor, whether someone is distributing books, whether someone is cutting vegetables, it's the purpose that they're doing this to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what's important, whatever your position is in. And a person shouldn't think that they should think that themselves so important that they're born in the right family. After all, you see people born in families of successful people who are unsuccessful. They have to do something on their own. So it's talking about pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'll just set out to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. And what I'll do is I'll just imagine I'm in my relationship with Krishna. And then I'll go up to Radha and Krishna and I'll put the tilak on them and I'll bring them the things that I think that they should want to be pleased. Is that what we do? Go directly to Radha and Krishna and give them the things that we want? Is it? Yes? Who says yes? No? That's why we're supposed to be the servant of the servant of the servant. We see that Radha and Krishna are served by their
associates, the 8 gopis, Lalita, Vishaka, Suchitra, Champaklata, Induleka, Tungavijra, Rangadevi, and Sudevi. So if they're there, do you try to serve them, or do you try to move them out of the way? Which one? Actually, it's almost that, but not quite, because the ones who assist them are the manjaris. Who's qualified to become a manjari right now? You're not. I was afraid I was the only one who wasn't qualified to be a manjari. I thought all of you understand, because the manjaris assist the shakis. It's like the electrical current. If someone sticks a fork in the socket, Bilva Mangal has it, and then Raghunath Bhatta grabs him, and then JP grabs him, and I grab him, I'm too far away to feel the shock, right? No, actually, each person it goes through, it becomes stronger. So in the disciplic succession, the knowledge becomes stronger. So if we don't go directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he says here, abandon all varieties of religiosity and surrender unto me. So then what are we supposed to do to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Ask him to send us a letter with a list of things? What do we do? What is it? Service to which devotees? Just any devotee? What do we do to serve, to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What's the best way? Where? What do we do? Something different. Do we know exactly how to serve Krishna? We approach the spiritual master. Anyone that says they're a spiritual master? Or would it be A, the spiritual master who has declared himself to be a authority? B, would it be any random person? Would it be C, someone who comes into succession? Or D, someone who is a Tattva-darshan, a realized soul? Or E, both C and D? Which one is it? C and D. Not A and D? Someone that just declares themselves? You're looking for a realized soul, so someone comes and tells you they're a realized soul, right? Does that work? No. We follow spiritual master. And this is what's important in spiritual life. It's like some of the Indian people in India, they think, oh, well, some of you Westerners didn't do all the samskaras. The parents do the Garbhodan samskara before they conceive a child. That's why you can't do your own, because they do it before they conceive a child. But of these samskaras, what is more important? Following them in the ritual, or the samskara of being initiated by someone who actually sees God? Like, which would be better, if somebody went directly to the President of the United States, or the Prime Minister of India, or President of South Africa, or somebody who had studied the theory of government? They can give you some idea, but they don't have a direct connection with the person of power. So the spiritual master has a direct connection. And that's why approaching them can put them ahead of someone who was born in India. Let's say, I don't know much about the sport cricket, but I know the most famous one in India was Sachin Tendulkar. Now, I'm a little old for it now, but let's say I went to India, and I was told by him that he would dedicate his time to training me how to play cricket. Would I be better than the average person, or would they be better just because they were born in India? Who would be better? I'm going to the person who actually knows it. You don't get it just by being born there, right? Like some of you are born in Africa. Does that mean you're a master of African dance? You're not? Can you show us the mastery? Can you do African dance in such a way that everyone goes, wow, he's really mastered this? Can you show us that now? Or we can do it at the Sunday feast. You can show your mastery. But you were born in Africa. They say that Africans are born with rhythm, so they automatically know how to do the dance without even training, correct? You don't want to get up and do that under the theory that Africans have a natural sense of rhythm and therefore you can perform an African dance better than anyone else? You don't want to try that theory in front of a few hundred people? You don't want to prove that it's not true, right? So this is where we have the lucky chance. And the Tattvadarshins see the way that others don't see. And that's why the best way to surrender to Krishna is to surrender to his representative. If you want to be important in the military of a country, do you just decide to be a general and go to some country and start a war in the name of the country? Or do you have to take authority from the people above you? You can't just go off. Even big generals get fired when they try to do something. MacArthur was the general, and he decided, well, he thought the North Koreans drove the Americans all the way to the south of Korea. So the American Army and the United Nations came in, drove them back to where the border was. He figured, well, we can drive them all the way to the border of North Korea and take over all of North Korea. And as they kept getting closer to China, no Chinese came in. They thought, well, this is great. We're going almost to China. And they got almost like right to the border of China. And it was Christmas Day. And I think the Americans had a couple 100,000 troops. And the Chinese committed 1.5 million troops. So they overran them and they went back down to the middle, right where they had started from. And MacArthur thought, well, we need to start bombing China. And President Harry S. Truman fired him because he didn't have the authority to do that. So whenever we think we have the authority to make our own process, we don't become a great general in the Sankirtan army or a great patriot. We become someone who is misdirecting. So the point is not to think how important we are, but to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by doing that, we engage in the service of the spiritual master who's in line, who's in disciplic succession from Prithu Maharaj, right? No, because Prithu Maharaj was in a different age. They're doing the big, huge sacrifices we don't do. In this age, we follow that in each age there is an avatar who shows the process for the age. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to South India and he was talking to the Tattvavadi Guru. And we're in the line of the Tattvavadis, the Madhavacharya Sampradaya. And he asked him, what is the best process for the Kali Yuga? And he says, following your Varnashram Dharma and offering the result to Krishna. We may do that, but it's not the primary process. Lord Chaitanya says, but the scripture says that in the age of Kali, the hearing and chanting of the holy names is the most important. Prabhupada wanted us to establish the Varnashrama. It's a little difficult to do that. People think it's just the caste system. But the main thing is the hearing and chanting of the holy names. This is what we propagate. When we go out on the Sankirtan, we don't propagate the Varnashram Dharma. We propagate the hearing and the chanting of the holy names. And maybe we can do a little bit more on those lines, but the important thing here is that we give up all varieties of religion. Whether it's Varna, an ashrama, or whether it's not that we don't do them, but we don't do the ritual just to do the ritual. It's like some brahmanas think they're better than us because they know how to do all these special mantras, and they can go to the spiritual God and chant some mantras to the spiritual God to get a material benefit. It'd be like if you sent me to Sachin Tendulkar to learn cricket, and instead I asked him about the weather for the last week. I said, did you learn something? Yes, I learned about what the weather was like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and what it's going to be like on Thursday. He said, well, you missed the point. You're supposed to go to him to learn the cricket sport. So we're supposed to find out what the personality of Godhead wants, not go for some material benefit. Doesn't it defeat the purpose? People go to the spiritual God and ask for material benefits. Dhruva Maharaj was going to do this. He went off to the forest because he wanted a kingdom better than his father. Better than his father was Maharaj Uttanapad, and better than his grandfather, who was Swaiman Bhuvamanu, and better than his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. How could he get that? So he went and he was chanting the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and Krishna appeared in his heart in the Vishnu form, and then he saw him in his heart, and then all of a sudden he disappeared, and he opened his eyes, and there was Krishna standing before him. And Krishna touched him with the conch shell and gave him the Vedic knowledge. It's kind of like Krishna says in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Janmadasada Anuratascha Itaratascha Artesu Avignasvara Tene Brahma Ridaihe. This knowledge was imparted into the heart of Brahma. Because Brahma appeared on the top of a stem, and he didn't know where it was. And he heard the saying, tapa, tapa, austerity. And it's funny, some people say, well, how could he be born connected by a cord? Do you know anyone who was connected by a cord when they were born? Do you? Were some people connected? Were no people connected? Some people or all people are connected. So is it so hard to believe that Brahma is connected to a cord? When everybody you know was born, just because they don't have the cord now, and just because you don't remember being connected by the cord. That's why sometimes when the mother keeps the child too close, they say, you need to cut the cord. Because they keep them so close that it's as if the umbilical cord is still there. So it's not so hard to believe that Brahma's born on it. And he was the first. Knowledge goes from Krishna to Brahma to Narada to Vyasa. And we serve Krishna by serving the spiritual master. And then some people tell us, well, why are you concerned with your spiritual master? There's so many spiritual masters. But when you take in a spiritual wife, it's like somebody comes here with their wife to the temple and you say, why are you going home with your wife? There's so many other women here. Why don't you go home with one of them instead? And it's like with the guru, it's even more like that. You know, your one is the best, especially since that's the one you picked. And you just think, I'll get a better wife and a better guru. Instead of being a better husband and a better disciple, and they, well, yes, I'll just take a new guru. Is that the process? Then you reject them for another one? Or do you wait patiently till you find someone you can dedicate your life to and follow them? Otherwise, why don't they just go home with some other women? There may be many women who are qualified to be wives. Why do they go home with the same one they came with? Do we advise them that way? Or we're happy that they go home with the one they brought? So the same way we follow our spiritual master, and by serving him, we learn how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So do we please Krishna by following the spiritual master or by chanting Hare Krishna? Which one? It's both, because the spiritual master asks us to chant Hare Krishna. So it's not like it's a separate endeavor. They say, do we do what the spiritual master wants, or do we follow the process of Krishna consciousness? Or do we follow the teachings of Bhagavad Gita? Which one is it? Or is it all of the above? Because they go together. The Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu should be saying the same things. So if we find they go together, and the Guru is a pure devotee, an enlightened soul, then by serving him, we're automatically serving the purpose of the Vedas, serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and achieving the goal of life, which is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because we can't just speculate on how we're going to please them. We have to serve through someone who actually knows. So I think we can end there. They're taking me somewhere to see a river. I think it's the Zambezi River, or no, it can't be that one, can it? Doesn't that divide Zimbabwe from, it can't be that one. It might be, it's not the River Run, that's someplace in Virginia. I think it's the Paradise Valley, or maybe there's something similar to that, where they're going to take me to see it, and we'll chant rounds there, and we'll look at the wildlife. And if the lion comes, I won't come back. All right. Any questions or comments on this? Can anybody remember the purport and recite it verbatim without looking? But Darius, you're pretty sharp. You can do that? Yeah, can you recite the purport from memory after hearing it? Wow. Well, that's all right. I bet nobody here can. That's all right. It took Bhaktisiddhanta till 7 years old till he memorized the Bhagavad Gita. Anybody else here memorize it? He did. Good. Hare Krishna. He memorized the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. I'm off to the Zambezi River.